Good morning. Good morning. Okay, I am live. Hang on just a minute. Why do I have a low Wi Fi signal? Good morning. So I'm live on TikTok, I'm live on Facebook, and I'm live on YouTube. So I'm new to being live. I used to go live on TikTok all the time, and I started getting a following, sort of. And then I started trying to balance Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and it was like, this is so difficult. So I kind of stopped doing TikTok, and I'm going to try to do all three because I had to close my farm. And if you're just following me and you don't know what I'm talking about, I am juggling being a farmer and a caregiver at the same time. My name is Judy. I call myself Aunt Judy. I am open to the public. I do field trips, I do tours, I do social media. I'm a jack of all trades, and I'm also a train wreck. So oftentimes I go live every Monday and Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. And the reason is because I have struggled my entire life with mental health. And I have been on a journey to change my life from the inside out. I started with writing down everything I hated about my life, including the way I look, my attitude, my how I was a wife. I hated everything about myself. So I wrote everything down and started counseling and working with a counselor to change my life. And this all started in 2010. So this has not been a huge, quick change. It has been a gradual change because I feel like anytime you make a quick change in your life, it doesn't stick for me. It might stick for you, but if I lose weight quickly, or if I don't what if I try to change something in my life, if I do not do it slowly and learn from what's happening in my life, it doesn't stick. I need things to stick because I am in this for the longevity. I am not in for a quick fix. I want to change my life from the inside out. And so, doing that, I have worked really hard with a counselor. I go to counseling every single week and have since 2010 to change my life. And so I like to spread, not that I'm perfect, because I tell you every time I go live that I'm a complete train wreck. And so I feel like by sharing my story with you guys, when things come up in my life that I struggle with, I talk about it. I'm a very open, honest person. So I tell you the struggle. So if you struggle with your weight, with mental health, with depression, with anxiety, with addiction, with feeling confident about yourself, like you hate your marriage, whatever, I'm here to tell you that you can only change yourself. That's all you can change. You can't change your marriage. You can't change, you can only change the way you view your marriage, or you view life, or you view yourself. That's all you can change. Okay, so I'm a straight up weirdo. I get ready. I get ready in the mornings. I'm not selling makeup. I am not a makeup artist. You'll learn really quick that I'm not a makeup artist, but I get ready because getting ready in the mornings helps my mental health. Makes no sense, right? But it does. You know how, like, if you're a woman, I don't think men do this, but you know, if you have like a spray tan on, you feel good about yourself, you hold yourself up, your back up straight, you feel good. And so I have learned that when I take the time to get ready in the morning, I have a better day. Do I get ready every morning? Mm-mm. Because I'm a train wreck. Okay. Some days I do it, some days I don't. But see, I use this slogan. I use the slogan that you have choices in life. I say that because I always talk about you can sit it out or you can dance. I have my dance necklace on today. You have choices. You can sit it out or you can dance. And what I mean by dance is make a difference in your own life and making a difference in someone else's life. Dancing is focusing on within. Dancing is when you're in a situation, you look within and go, what could I have done differently? Like instead of going, she said this to me, he did this, blah, 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 blah. But what did you do? That is being the best version of yourself, is when you can look at your own inner self and go, but what is my ownership in this? What do I need to change myself to fix this situation? Because believe it or not, if something is not right with a relationship, you do have ownership. And being the best version of yourself is looking within to go, what can I fix? What can I change? What words could I have said differently? What is my ownership? And that's what I call being the best version of yourself. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to start getting ready. So if you're just joining me for the first time and you don't know exactly what I talk about in the mornings, I talk about, like I said, mental health. And I take my glasses off. When I take my glasses off, I can't see shiitake mushrooms. Okay. So just go with me and just, I don't know, put your earbuds in if you're at work. Well, it's 7 o'clock. People probably aren't at work. But just listen to what I got to say, if you want to. All right. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about this morning. I want to talk about my marriage. And I also want to talk about this. There was this lady. Okay. I grew up. Look, my curling iron matches my outfit. Okay. I grew up with a single mother. I did not know when I was young that we were poor. I really didn't. I did not realize we were poor. And the reason is because my mom was going in debt to give to us. So like every Christmas, I mean, by golly, Santa Claus rocked the house at my house because mom was the best Santa Claus. Okay. Like we got tons of gifts. It was me and my two brothers. And we used to go to my grandmother's house and we would wake up Christmas morning and there would be presents everywhere. I told you guys before, my mother was the best stocking person ever. I was a girly girl. So like when I would open my stocking Christmas morning, there would be jewelry and there'd be makeup and there'd be nail polish and just girly girl stuff. And that was my favorite part of Christmas, was my stocking. And I do miss that today. I don't know what, hang on. Okay. So I grew up poor. Well, my mother, because she was a single mother, my mother didn't work when my parents got divorced. So my mother, when she went back to work, had to start at the bottom and move her way up. So that's why we just were poor, because my mom, when my parents were married, mom didn't really have an education. She didn't have work experience because she stayed home. And so she went into the work field and began to work her butt off. So my mom worked really long hours, and me and my brothers pretty much raised ourselves. Mom would, at the end of every month, she had what was called billing, and they would close their books. My mom worked in accounting. And so when the books were closed, she would have to work. I'm talking, she went in, left the house at 7 a.m., and she did not come home till like 2 o'clock in the morning during billing. And so me and my brothers would stay by ourselves because mom was at billing because she couldn't afford a daycare or a babysitter. We were poor, but me and my brother were old enough to stay by ourselves. Probably not old enough to stay by ourselves at 2 o'clock in the morning. But when you're a single mom, you just do what you got to do, right? And so one thing that my mom lacked was she didn't have time to clean the house. She didn't. So there was this lady that lived down the street from us. Her name was Becky Morgan. And Becky Morgan, I'm already start crying. This ain't good. Becky Morgan was one of my mom's best friends. And also her son played sports. Me and my brother were into sports really big time. So her son played sports with us. And then she had a son. He was an older son that was deaf. His name was Michael Dell. And oftentimes Michael Dell would walk to the house. And I loved Michael Dell. He would teach me sign language. Like we would just sit, in the living room, and he would teach me how to sign. He was listen, and this dude could dance like you cannot even imagine. And he had the best personality. Every single person in Huffman Ballpark knew who Michael Dell was because he had a personality that was huge. And he went to Epic School, which is this school for, I don't know if it was for the deaf and blind or people with disabilities. I can't remember. But he went to school and he got to the point where, let me back up. So he used to come to my house almost every day. And Becky, I guess she felt sorry for my mother. I don't know. She started cleaning our house. And she would come once a week and she would wash our clothes. She would cook supper. She would clean the house for my mother. And she came every single week. And also, okay, back when I was a kid, I'm fixing to be 54. So back when I was a kid, girls got perms. Okay. We got perms, and perm was like $100. Well, my mom couldn't afford a perm. Okay. Like I couldn't afford that stuff. As a matter of fact, all my blue jeans when I was a kid were hand-me-down from Michael Dell. And I just didn't think anything of it because I always got Michael Dell's hand-me-down blue jeans, and that's what I wore. And Becky came to clean the house. Becky would do our laundry, and she would cook our supper. And I thought a lot of Becky. One thing that was very special about Becky is she was very involved at, I'm trying to think of the foundation because they come here and I can't think of it. It wasn't the Alabama School of Deaf and Blind. That's Epic, I think. But there was a program in downtown Birmingham that is still in place to this day that's for people with disabilities. And so Michael Dell would go there after he got out of school. And Becky was very involved in that school program. And so she would do Special Olympics. And so she knew every single one. A lot of the kids would some would be blind, some would be deaf, some would have um, other mental challenges, like Down syndrome and stuff like that. And I can remember everyone loved Becky Morgan. Everyone at the ballpark loved Becky Morgan. All these kids that she was involved with that had disabilities loved Becky Morgan. As a matter of fact, okay, I'm 54. So I was a teenager. So I was probably 13 years old when all this was happening. To this day, when the group home, if you don't know, so I am a nonprofit farm and I'm open to the public. And so every Wednesday, a group home comes to my farm to volunteer. And there's two of them that are blind. They just have different challenges. Okay. Those members of the group home know Becky Morgan. That is how involved Becky Morgan has been in their life, because some of these are adults. Well, all of them are adults. There's no children that come from the group home. All of them are adults. They know that Becky Morgan. And I was like 13 years old. So she has stayed involved in their life from the time I was a young girl till I'm 54 years old. That's how awesome Becky Morgan is. Well, I really feel like my love for people with disabilities came from the influence of Becky Morgan. I really feel like she taught me from a young, and she doesn't even know this, but she taught me from a young age not to treat people with disabilities any differently, because she didn't. And even though her son was born deaf, I can't remember the whole story, but I remember Michael Dell had a surgery when he was young. And I can't remember if he was born deaf or the surgery caused him deafness. Michael Dell is still alive to this day. I think I can't remember how old he is. I want to say he's 50 something, but I'm thankful for Becky for teaching me not to discriminate against people with disabilities. And it's taught me how to see the best in people with disabilities. Like sometimes you look at someone, maybe like you look at someone that is blind and you're like, how are they going to clean out my rabbit cage? They're blind. Like, how do they? You would be amazed at what a blind person can do. You guys have watched Richard play the organ. Richard plays the organ like there's no tomorrow. Okay. How did Richard get so talented? A blind man on the piano that you can go, play Amazing Grace. He plays. Play the Alabama Fight song. He plays. You can literally ask him to play almost any song and he can do it. It is amazing. Just like Lonnie. Lonnie is an incredible, talented artist. He can draw like there's no tomorrow. He walks around with books and colored pencils and draws all the time. It is amazing the talent behind this group home. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Becky and tell her thank you for teaching me, for being such a positive influence in my life. Thank you for helping my mother when we were young, and just being the mother to everyone at the ballpark, and really teaching me not to discriminate against people with disability. And I'm so thankful that there's many of my animals that are disabled, that I'm able to take those animals and teach these children and adults not to discriminate against people with disabilities. It is amazing. And I feel like I owe it to Becky, because I have a love in my heart for people with disabilities, and not just even people with mental disabilities, people that struggle with depression, with suicide, with addiction, with OCD, all these things that we deal with in everyday life. My heart and my desire is to show them acceptance, because we all struggle with something. And so many times we want to point our finger and say, oh, God, they're a train wreck. We all train wrecks, okay? Come on. Every one of us are a train wreck. All right. So thank you, Becky. I don't know if she's here, but she is a wonderful lady. So I want to talk about the day I married Shane. Shane and I dated for 2 years before we got married. And our relationship was long distance. Needless to say, we dated, and I don't even know if you call it dated. We really just talked on the phone. We just talked on the phone all the time, because he lived in Gulf Shores and worked in Gulf Shores, and that's 5 hours away from me. And it was a perfect relationship because I wasn't ready to date. I had a lot I needed to work on myself in my own life. And Shane is not the type of guy that's up your butt. I know that seems kind of, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's like, he's not got to be with you all the time. He's very independent. So it allowed me to finish. My son was in high school when I met Shane, and I didn't really want to be in a serious relationship. I needed to do some healing from the divorce that I had, and I needed to raise my son. And so Shane was not around during the week. He was only around on the weekends. So it allowed me to concentrate on just me and my son. Well, if you sit here and talk on the phone all the time with someone, you kind of get to know them because you're trying to figure out stuff to talk about, right? So like Shane and I got really close because we got to know each other through the telephone, you know? Well, I'm not going to go into detail, but I almost left Shane when we were dating. I almost said, Joker, you are not for me. Get your booty out of here. And Shane expressed his love for me when all this happened. And I had no idea that he liked me that much, because Shane is kind of a hard guy. He ain't a mush. He is not romantic. He is not a mushy person. He's not going to profess his love for you. He's going to be hard as a rock. Okay. You got to kind of figure Shane out. So he asked me to marry him that day. And I was like, what? What? I said, I can't get married until my son graduates. So my son graduated in May and we got married in June. My lease was up on my apartment. My son was going off to college to Alabama. And Vanson and I moved to Gulf Shores right after he graduated high school. And then he went off to college that August. It was an adjustment period for Vanson and I. Shane and I bought a house in October before we got married, and Shane lived in the house by himself and was redoing it, and me and Vanson lived in the apartment. Well, it was an adjustment for me and Vanson. Well, when Shane and I got married, we didn't go on a honeymoon. I told y'all Shane is not romantic. We did not go on a honeymoon because Shane is a workaholic. So as soon as we got married, the day after we got married, Shane went to Freeport, Florida and worked the entire summer, and I stayed home. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I tell the raw truth. When we first got married, I was like, I've made another mistake. And I was so mad at myself. I was like, I have made another mistake. Because he just up and left to Freeport, Florida. And I'm left here I'm left in Gulf Shores. I don't know anybody, hardly at all. I'm in this house. I was so unhappy. I was like, what do I do? Because Shane had been single. He dated a lot. Shane always had a girlfriend. He always had a girlfriend, but he lived with girls. He was a train wreck himself. He lived not being married. And he lived with girls for a long time. He was in long relationships, but he wouldn't get married to them. But I was like, I have made the biggest mistake of my life. I've married this man and it's not what I thought it was. And he's taken me to this city. I don't know anybody. Now he's not here. And like when we first got married, it was an adjustment for him too, because he was a hardball. He was like, he took me away from my hometown. So needless to say, I didn't work, and I just felt like he put down a lot of stipulations when we were first married. Like, you're going to do this, this, and this, and I'll do this, this, and this. And I was like, oh God, I've made a mistake. What am I going to do? And I seriously thought about leaving. I was like, I can't do this. I am not, because prior to Shane, I was married for 15 years, and I was like, I am not about to go through hell again with a marriage. I have lived in hell for 15 years, and I am not about to do that again. I can't, like, mentally, I can't take it. And so instead of making a decision myself, I got on my knees and started praying. And I was like, God, what do I do? Do I just walk out? Like, what do I do? And I prayed over Shane's pillow because, I would literally just get on every night. I would pray. And I was like just calling out to God, asking to help me because I was miserable. And all I kept thinking in my head, now, you know how things consume you? Like when there's something that you can't control, okay? When there's like a person you can't control or a situation you can't control and it drives you crazy, it consumes your brain. It consumes me 24/7. When I can't fix something, it consumes me. Like my brain does not turn off morning and night. It is going 90 to nothing with me trying to figure out how to fix it. I can't fix it. So then I become obsessed going, what do I do? What do I do? Morning and day, because I was by myself. Shane was in Freeport. And so I would just I would just pray and I would just go, what do I do? And I would feel in my head, just be yourself. That's what I kept feeling in my heart. Just be yourself, Judy. Because he was saying things to me that caused me to think he didn't trust me or that I had done something wrong. And I knew that I was trustworthy and I knew that I had done nothing wrong. Like I was smart enough and had enough therapy under my belt to know in my brain that I was a saint. I did nothing wrong. And so I just kept feeling a piece of going, just be yourself. Take care of you, Judy. Just take care of you. And so the more that I took care of me, and let me just tell y'all, okay, I lived in Gulf Shores, right? I was driving 5 hours to Birmingham once a week to go to counseling. That is how much I wanted to be okay. That I was willing to drive 5 hours. So I had been with my counselor since 2010, and this was 2017. So I was like, okay, whatever it takes for me to be okay. And so I would just work on me. I wouldn't work on my marriage because there was nothing to work on. I knew as a wife, I knew in my heart and in my soul, I knew the best thing I could do is work on me, the way I react to him, because I knew in my heart that I wasn't going to steal his money. I never cheated on him a day in my life. I had never lied to him a day in my life. I was the best I could be, is what I felt like. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to continue to work on me and not worry about him. And oftentimes he would trigger me. Like he would say something that made me feel like it would trigger my insecurities. It would trigger my fears because Shane, where I had been, let me back up. My entire life, I've always made more money than my spouse. I was the breadwinner. Okay. With me and Shane, I'm not the breadwinner. And it caused me to, like, he would say things to me and it would cause me to feel as though I had done something wrong. And it would confuse me because I would in my head, I would go, but I haven't done anything wrong. I've been faithful. I've not that he was accusing me of cheating because he wasn't, but like he would say things that would make me like, for example, I'm trying to figure out how to tell you a little bit, but not tell you everything because I don't want to just throw my business. But like, for example, when we first got married, you know how like when you get married, it's like you you make everyone each other beneficiary, or you go get on each other's checking account or whatever. And I said that. I was like, are we going to go to the bank and get on each other's checking account? And he goes, you're not getting on my checking account. And I was like, what'd I do wrong? I've never done anything. I have good credit. I have money in the bank. I'm not like, what the heck? And so when he said that to me, it caused me to feel like he thought that I wasn't financially okay. And so it triggered a lot of fears in me. So as we started out this marriage, I had to really focus on my fears. And one of my biggest fears, I told you guys, is my biggest fear is that one day I'm going to be left with nothing. And I think the fear comes from losing my parents at a young age, because I lost both of my parents at a young age. The man that lives with me, if you don't know who I am, the man that lives with me is my stepdad. He's not my real dad. My real dad and my real mom both have passed away when I was young. My mom got sick when I was in high school. So needless to say, when you only live with your mom and you don't have much of a relationship with your father, and your mom almost dies when you're in high school, and your grandparents have to move and come down and live with you and your brothers because there's no one to take care of y'all because your mom's in the hospital fighting for her life, it causes a lot of insecurity. So those fears that I have of everyone's going to leave me and I'm going to be left with nothing is pretty much what happened to me when I was young. I mean, my mom was fighting for her life, and I'm in high school, and it jacks you up when all you have is your mom, and then all of a sudden you're having this hard conversation that your mom may die. And here I am, a teenager in high school with all these insecurities, and I'm like, oh my God, my mom's gonna die. And so to this day, that happened when I was 16 or 17, and I'm 54. And you know how sometimes something happens to you, like when you were young, and it affected you so bad? To this day, at 54 years old, if I sit and think about everyone's going to leave me and I'm going to have nothing, I don't have a mom to run to. I don't have a dad to run to. If I need $25 for gas, I don't have anybody to call. It is a true fear. And the fear comes from what happened to me in high school. And if you experience PTSD from things that happened to you when you're young, like, is there something that's happened to you when you're young that to this day, even though you're of age, you're like, it can trigger you and the fear comes over you like there's no tomorrow? You feel like you can't breathe. It is a true fear. And where Shane, he'll make jokes about, do you feel like you're going to be homeless? But see, if he could just feel the pain that I felt in high school when my mother was about to be taken away from me, and we only lived with my mother, it will scare the bejesus out of you as a child. because my dad had his own life over here with my stepmom, and we did see him. I didn't really see him a lot when I was young, but when he married my stepmom, she had stability. And so he started getting us every other weekend, but it was not the same. You know, my dad was more into not going to the ballpark and not us not being in sports, where my mom thought sports was so important to us. And I will tell you right now, if my dad was here and alive, sports is what saved my life. All the chaos that I was going through my whole life with parents divorced, mom sick, sports and relationships at the ballpark is what saved my Becky Morgan that I just spoke about. I wouldn't have known Becky Morgan if it wasn't for football and baseball and softball. My mom instilled teamwork in me, and she instilled the importance of working hard and practicing and not giving up. And my dad thought all that was wrong, but what he didn't realize is that was saving my life. Because I told you my mom had billing. And so my mom was not home a lot. And when your mom's not home a lot, and you're a teenager, then things can go on at your house because your mom's not there. So the ballpark saved my life. And Shane would trigger all those fears in me. And I didn't know how to talk about it because I didn't really know what was going on myself. I didn't know why I felt like I was going to be abandoned. I didn't understand, like, at the time, I didn't have enough counseling under my belt to know what was happening. Why was I like having anxiety attacks and all these fears when Shane would say things to me? Like, I didn't know where that was coming from until I learned that it was a trigger from PTSD from when I was a child. But I had to learn what was happening. And I had to learn what to do with that anxiety and depression when it overcomes me. Because even though Shane and our relationship is different today, he still triggers fears in me. And he doesn't do it on purpose. Shane just, he's got his own PTSD and his own fears too, because he's been left with nothing. He's been left in relationships where he walked out with a shirt on his back and had nothing. And so he's like, a girl ain't doing that to me again. I'm going to have my own crap. You have your crap, I'll have my crap, because ain't no girl. I am not going to be left with nothing. So Shane has this PTSD trigger too of, you ain't taking my crap. And I have this PTSD trigger that goes, I'm going to be left with nothing. So you see how the two cause imbalance, and we trigger each other all the time. But it takes one person to understand that trigger, because Shane doesn't go to counseling, so he don't know what that's all about. But I have to be the person that goes, he's triggered. He don't mean anything he says. He's being triggered. It's nothing. I had to learn it was nothing that I had done. It was his own crap, because I've never done anything. As a matter of fact, my credit score is like almost 850. I've not done anything to cause him to think that I'm going to like steal from him or whatever. I had to learn that it had nothing to do with me. It has to do with his PTSD from his past. And I have learned that in my life, I'm so thankful that I did not give up. in the beginning. Because my life began, even though my life when we lived in Gulf Shores was a bit chaotic. A new marriage, a new town. My son, it was the first time I had no kids in the house. There was a lot going on. And then on top of that is when Larry started getting sick. And Larry moved in with us when we lived in Gulf Shores. So I had Larry, I had a new marriage, I had a new town. It was just chaos. So I had to learn not only what my triggers were, but I had to learn why my husband does the things that he does. And there may be times that you are in your marriage or your relationship and you're like, why does she do the crap she does? Why does she freak the flip out over this? Or why is he so like this? Like, you have to figure it out because there's some kind of PTSD that causes them to do the things that they do. And a lot of times when you don't know and you don't have counseling under your belt, you take it personal because they attack you personally. Because they don't know how to break it down and go, it hurts inside. 19 years ago, I was left with a t-shirt on my back. I worked my butt off to get where I was going. I had this house. I had this property. I had this great job. I had kids. And she left, and I was left with a t-shirt on my back. And it didn't feel good. When you're the best version of yourself is when you don't take that crap personal. First of all, you have to know in your heart what kind of person are you? Are you the person that, I don't know, I'm just going to throw some crap out there, but are you the person that has cheated on your spouse? So therefore there's insecurity or there's no trust. Are you the type of person that has overspent money so your spouse doesn't trust you with money? Are you the type of, you got to figure out, you've got to write down what you need to fix. I hate when I do this. I hate this about me. I hate that I hate this weakness about me. Whatever it is. And I'm talking about within and out. So what do you hate about yourself within? And what do you hate about your looks? All those things. Because you can control every single thing when it comes to yourself. You hate your hair? Well, guess what? They make these beautiful extensions. I have extensions because I have hated my hair my whole life. I like the color of my hair, but I hated that I had this fine, thin hair. I fixed it. You hate the field goal between your eyes? They make Botox and fillers. You can fix it. You hate that you overspend? Guess what? You can fix it. You hate that you're overweight or underweight? Guess what? You can fix it. You hate that people trigger these insecurities in you? Guess what? You can fix it. I mean, even something, you hate the color of your eyes? Well, dear God, they make colored contacts. I mean, you literally can fix anything from within or out that you hate about yourself. It's a wonderful feeling. But you can't fix anything about other people. If you're like me and you try so hard to fix your child, or you marry someone because you're going to fix them, because you played the role of God that, oh, he'll change. As soon as we have this child, he'll change. No, he ain't. No, she ain't. She ain't changing. I'm here to tell you right now, it's only going to get worse. You can only change yourself. And the sooner you realize that you can only change yourself, it's going to make you smile, because no longer are you going to fight this anxiety trying to fix your marriage, or trying to fix your child, or trying to fix your best friend, or whoever you're trying to fix your mother, or you're trying to fix your dad. You can't fix them. And so many times, especially when it comes to Larry, my stepdad that lives with me, I'm going to fix him. He's going to get his butt out of that bed. He's going to do therapy. He's going to have a will to live. He's going to stop this bull crap, and he's going to get some strength and quit giving up. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. He ain't doing that. He's not doing that. He don't care about drinking water. He doesn't care about eating right. He doesn't care about exercising. Leave him alone. He wants to lay in the bed. And that drives me crazy. It drives me insane. And oftentimes I have to go, hey, Judy, guess what? You can't fix him. You can't fix him. So what do? I have to go fix me and go, you're at step 1, which means you can't cure it. You didn't cause it. Cause it, cure it. There's another C. I can't remember what it is. Cause it, cure it. You didn't cause it. You didn't cure it. Can't think of it. You can only fix you in the way you react to that. In other words, get out of his business. Get in your own lane. Find the things you need to fix about you. Because that's where the best version of you is going to come into play, when you fix you. That is when it's going to happen. So understand that when Shane and I got married, I'm so thankful that I said, okay, Judy, you've made this choice. Go to counseling. You're miserable. He's triggering you. He's not doing it on purpose because he loves me. But he hasn't dealt with his own fears. And I can't fix that. So either I have to be okay with the fact that he's never going to be that way. So if I'm insecure about, let's just say I'm insecure about, I'm going to be left with nothing. What do I need to do to fix it? What can I personally do to fix this fear of myself? Get financially more stable. And my doctor looked at me and she was like, Judy, how much money do you have to have in the bank to make you feel financially stable? And my answer was just like everybody else's answer, because we've heard it all our life. You should always have 3 to 4 months of salary in your savings account. I could hear Fred Waniger, my dad, saying that to me right now. You need 3 or 4 months of savings at all times in your savings account. So I thought that was the magic answer. So I said to her, if I just had 3 or 4 months of money in savings, I think I'd feel better. And so then she was like, okay, well, let's write down what you have. And I was like, okay, how much do you have in your retirement? How much do you have in your savings? How much do you have in your checking? And I wrote everything down, and she was like, wow, you already have 3 to 4 months savings in your checking account. So that's not the answer. Oh, okay. Well, let me rephrase that. If I just had X amount of dollars in my savings account, I would feel much better. She was like, okay, well, let's start working towards that. So I set this goal in place to work on me financially, because I told you, in order to find balance in your life, you have to work on yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But there is a financial. You have to work on yourself financially. So if your fears are you're going to be left with nothing, well, your mind says, well, then you need to put something there so you're not left with nothing, right? So I started working on myself financially. And guess what? The fears are still there. So my counselor taught me that it really had nothing to do with the dollar amount. The fear of me being left alone has absolutely zero to do with the dollar figure. But it took me figuring that out myself. But my counselor set me up for failure, because she was like, okay, you need this much money in your savings account. Okay, well, how are we going to get this much in your savings account? So why don't you take this much money every single month and put it in your retirement or your savings account? So I did because I'm a robot. If you tell me to do this, I can do it. If you say, Judy, put $20 in your drawer every single week, I will physically put $20 in my drawer every week. Oh, and I'm thinking the whole entire time, okay, this is going to fix that financial insecurity that I have. It's going to fix it. If I just put that $20 in my drawer, in X amount of months, I'll have this much money, and I will always have gas money in my drawer. If my savings account and my checking account goes to zero, I got gas money and a little bit of money for food. So I'm good. So she set me up to do that. And it took me a while to get enough money in my savings account to tell her, okay, I met my goal. And it meant nothing. The fear is still there to this day. So what I realized is it wasn't a dollar amount that had anything to do with it. And I can remember, I don't know, last week or the week before. Do y'all have your vodka? Okay. So last week or the week before, Shane and I have a financial advisor. And we had an appointment with him to sit down together and talk, because Shane retires in 4 years. So he was trying to make sure that we were going to be okay in 4 years when Shane retires. So we sat with the financial advisor and we talked about what do we need to put in our retirement account to be financially stable when Shane retires in 4 years. So we sat there and we talked nothing but about money, right? Because we're talking to a financial advisor. And we get off the phone and Shane goes, do you feel better? I was like, about what? He goes like, do you still feel homeless? And I was like, you made me mad. And he was like, what'd I do? And I was like, well, when we were talking about your retirement, you were all into it. But then when we got to my retirement, you were over here texting on your phone and you didn't care about anything that was being done. Why did that just happen? That's weird. Hang on. I'm on TikTok. Okay. I said, because you were all in to talking about your retirement and your stocks and all that, but when it got to mine, you didn't care. It's like, are you kidding me right now? And what I realized is, once again, it had nothing to do with a dollar amount. It had to do back when I was 16 years old and my mother was in the hospital fighting for her life. And the doctor and my grandparents set us down and told us there was a big chance we were going to lose my mom. And sometimes the fear that you have and the trigger you have to break it down and figure out where it's coming from. Because if you don't, you're not going to understand. You're going to think it's, he is doing this to me. He is a terrible husband. He is doing this and he's making me mad. No, you're being triggered. And you got to figure out where it's coming from. He's not doing it on purpose. He's being triggered. And you have to be the best version of yourself to figure this out. Because you think in your head, well, if he would just do this, my fears would go away. But instead, he's a jackleg and he's over here just going, me, 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 me. And you'll end up hating his guts or her guts. But when you're the best version of yourself is when you're stepping back and seeing the big picture. And whatever your fears are, it's like this. It's like, let's say it's something not within. Let's say it's an outer thing. Let's say you're like, I'm so insecure about myself because I weigh 300 pounds. If I could just be 150 pounds, I would be happy. If I would just take this magic pill and drop 150 pounds, I would be the happiest person in the whole wide world. You tell yourself that. So then let's just say you go have weight loss surgery, or you go take the magic pill that you drop 150 pounds. And at first you're like, woo, look at me. I feel great. I feel great. And the next thing you know, all those triggers of being 300 pounds, being insecure, being called fat when you were a kid, not being able to wear the latest fad clothes because you're overweight as a kid, all that junk comes right back. And now you're weighing 150 pounds and you have the same fears, the same insecurities, and the same triggers because you haven't dealt with the triggers. You sit here and tell yourself, if I could just get to 150 pounds, it'll all go away. And I'm here to tell you, I'm getting the preaching stick out. I'm here to tell you right now, that is not the truth. You're totally lying to yourself. Because I did it. I went and put the money that I thought I needed in the bank to feel secure. And to this day, Shane triggers my insecurities with, I'm going to be left with nothing. And when I get triggered, do I recognize it immediately? I don't. I blame it on him. I start going, I can't stand him. He's mean. All he thinks about is self. He'll never be as one with me. He's going to always be like this. I don't even know what. You go to crazy land when you get triggered. But when you're the best version with yourself is the moment you're like, I'm blaming all this on him. Step back, regroup. Where is this fear coming from? Where is this fear coming from? And then suddenly I'm like, wow, that day that I sat in that office with my grandmother and that doctor, it impacted my life. And here I am, 54 years old, still scared to death that everyone's going to leave me. And you'll find yourself weighing 150 pounds, scared to death you're going to gain it back. Scared to death. Like if I could just get 150 pounds, well, now you got all this loose skin. If I can just have surgery, if I could just have my stomach fixed. It's always something. You're never satisfied. And when you're never happy and you're never satisfied is the moment you need to go to counseling and fix you. Because they're true fears, they're true emotions, and they're true triggers that will trigger you in 0.2 seconds. But does it mean you're going to be perfect? No. The triggers are going to stay there. The good thing about it is when you start becoming the best version of yourself is the moment you're able to not let that trigger linger on. I can't fix Shane. I can't ever make him do what I want him to do. I can't. I can only fix me. And does he trigger me on purpose? He doesn't. He doesn't. And sometimes when you go to counseling and you have all this work under your belt, you get pissed off like, why am I the only one that has like trying to fix myself? He ain't doing shiitake mushrooms. He's just over here, living in his fears and scared to death. He's scared to death. They're going to steal from him. Why do I have to be the one who has to go deal with it? You know what? You know why? Because you're working on the best version of you. And when you're working on the best version of you is when I call it, you can sit it out or you can dance. And when you're working on you and your fears and staying in your lane, fixing you and not trying to fix him. And why do I have to do all this? The reason you're doing all this is for yourself. It's because you want peace. It's because you want to be, no matter what age you are, you want to be working on you and going, what do I need to do to fix me? What do I hate about myself? What do I need to do? How long is this? I just want a quick fix. I want to go to counseling for 6 weeks and be done. I just want to go on a diet for 6 weeks, get down to this much weight, put this much money in savings, and then I'll be completely happy. You are lying to yourself. This is something that is lifetime. This is something that you have to work at every single day. And you have to put effort into it every single day, or you're gonna be a train wreck. Do you wake up a train wreck? Maybe. But see, when you wake up, you're in the bus station, right? You're in the bus station And you're like, which bus am I going to get on? Am I going to get on the struggle bus or am I going to get on the double Dutch bus? The double Dutch bus is a place of dancing. And you have all these backup dancers right here to hold your hand to go, you know what? You got this, girl. You got this, boy. I'm rooting you on. I'm here for you. You go. You be the best version of yourself. Screw her. Screw him. Work on you. That is getting on the double Dutch bus. Getting on the struggle bus is going, my life is over. I'll never be skinny. I'll never, my marriage sucks. I'm never gonna have this great marriage. I wished I had this wonderful marriage. That's the struggle bus. It's a sad place. It's a lonely place. It's a scary place. It's awful. When you get on the double Dutch bus, it's a place of going, you know what? I'm a total train wreck. But by golly, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to fix this train wreck hair. I'm going to put on a little bit of makeup, put a little self-tanner on. I'm going to go make a difference in someone else's life instead of me sitting here being a train wreck myself. And that's the way you should be, because it brings a smile to your face and someone else's face too. All right, guys, thanks for joining me this morning. I love you, Becky Morgan, if you're still here. And to make a difference in someone's life, it doesn't require you having even $1. Because I will tell you right now, the meaningful things to me is so much more than $. So if you're on a limited income, or you're like, if I only had money, I could make a difference in someone's life, you can. Just by caring, by praying. They don't even have to know it. By praying for them is making a difference in their life. They don't even know it. You can make a difference. I love you guys. So today is Monday. You have choices. You can sit it out or you can dance. And I hope you dance. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.